Hi, everyone. Welcome to How Do You Meditate? I am your host, Tyler Gravely, meditation teacher and wellness consultant. I am so grateful that you are here. This podcast is all for you, and it's about making meditation accessible and understanding what the journey can be like to travel inward. I believe that when we are seeking some form of meditation, we are seeking a lifestyle change that builds our strength mentally and physically, something that helps us find acceptance and unlocks the possibilities that are waiting for us. Meditation really is this beautiful opportunity to heal and transform the outcome of your future. You can expect to hear stories on how others find wellness in meditation and how they incorporate it into their everyday life. I promise that you're going to hear something in each episode that helps spark the light in you to shift and take control over your own mind. You might laugh, you might cry, and you are going to transform the space within so that you can answer the question when asked, how do you meditate? Let's dive in. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to take a moment and ask you if, as of lately, you've been feeling completely stressed, perhaps lost, you're not sure where you're headed, total moments of anxiety, depression, you're down on your luck, you're at a fork in the road, you're missing something, and you don't know what it is. But if you had something else, or you could see a way out of your mind, and you had the ability to do so, you could be open to the presence of something else that would bring you joy, peace, happiness, excitement for what is to come. I have been in those shoes about, I don't even know how many times because I can't count. And I want you to know that being on this journey, it takes a lot of courage and it takes a lot of patience. And those are two things that I've been able to cultivate because of a meditation and mindfulness practice. The other thing is you got to talk about it. You've got to start talking about it. And so I am here to help guide you and help you uncover and discover what could be possible for your life if you had some clarity in the direction that you were headed. So I'm offering up, this is only going to be for a limited time because I don't have a lot of time right now, but I have time for 5 people. And I'm putting that out there that I want to help 5 people come together and help them uncover what's possible for them and help them discover a life that they feel excited for, cared for, loved, and that the possibilities seem endless. So, with that being said, this is my offer. If this is something that you're interested in, you can email me at hello@tylergravely.com and we can sit down for 30 minutes and just see if this would be a good fit for you. And it's absolutely free, and I'm here to help. So let me let you know that email again. It's hello@tylergravely.com. Don't hesitate to reach out. This is only for a limited time. So today is May 15th. I'm going to give it until May 30th. So if you hear this episode by then, reach out. Let's uncover something for you. And then we'll just see about getting this process started, getting it together. So can't wait to hear from you, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. It's so nice to be here with you and to be in your ears, in your car, on your walk. I absolutely just adore you for listening, and I'm just so grateful that you're here. This episode is really special today. I have on the show Danielle Laurent, and it was just an honor to sit down and talk with her about mindfulness and meditation. I met Danielle last year in a business building course, and I've been able to watch her grow and to see what she's up to. And what I'm really in the presence of is somebody else out there doing the work, somebody out there that's taking on this journey of mindfulness and meditation and uncovering what it has to offer them in their own world. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Danielle. She grew up in a small town in Northern California, and life took her abroad to where she now resides in England. And when you hear her story and how she began mindfulness and meditation, I know that it's going to resonate in your being by her sharing. She really did a lot of the heavy lifting for us today. And what I mean by that is oftentimes when we sit in these vulnerable conversations and we uncover and discover what's been holding us back or what we've been in the presence of and what we're resisting and working on, when we hear someone else's story, we see ourselves in their life and we're like, oh my gosh, that's me. Like, is Danielle me right now? And her and I's story is so similar. And I really got reconnected with how I began this journey. And what opened up for me was just this lighthearted, fun, and sure, yeah, it was painful. And obviously, waking up isn't always like light and fluffy and clouds in the sky, but hearing her speak about her journey into it and what she's creating from it is inspiring. So she's using her experience to help others, and she created a brand called Making Blue Sky, which is about bringing creativity and mindfulness together with a touch of wonder, and it helps others find their inner calm and return home to themselves. Coming this summer, Making Blue Sky is going to be releasing kindfulness card kits. You stitch mindfully for yourself, and then you send some kindness to someone else. And I will tell you, and I'm going to post on my Instagram, Danielle made me a card, and it is absolutely a work of art. And it just felt so loved and really like somebody cared. And I just, knowing once you hear this story that she sat down and made this for me, it really meant so much to me. And I know that when you make something like this and when you send it to somebody, they get to feel love and joy and happiness. And so you can find her on Instagram at Making Blue Sky. And without further ado, here is Danielle. Hey, Danielle. So grateful that you are here. Welcome to the show. How do you meditate? So excited to have you here. And I just love what you're up to in the world. And please share with us what you're doing and who you are and a little bit about you.
Well, thank you, Tyler, so much for having me. I love what you're doing. So this is just such a joy to be part of it. So I'm really into mindfulness or making mindfully, and kind of my journey to that point. I grew up in a really small town in Northern California, so it was really about like being out in nature and making lots of things. And so that's always been a big part of my life. And then sort of fast forward, went to college, met my college sweetheart, got married, life, and then moved abroad and have been living in England for the last 15 years. But probably in the last like 6 or 7 years, everything sort of unraveled. Life as I knew it completely changed. The marriage ended. I was changing careers, and life just sort of exploded. And that was sort of the beginning of my journey into mindfulness and meditation, and in a sense, kind of finding myself again.
Part of the journey, I think, maybe perhaps in finding mindfulness and meditation. Like your life is not going well and you're like, oh, I think I want to meditate. Like that doesn't typically happen.
Totally. And actually that completely resonates because I've always loved this idea of inner peace, and like I've always sought it. But when life is good, it's like I would just dabble. And I go to I taken a mindful or a meditation class at a Buddhist center, and I'd done all these things, but it was like, yeah, it's great, and I never really needed it. And I love the idea of it, but it was so much easier to just not practice it until I got to a point where I was just desperate for it. And that was sort of that turning point. And it is so funny. And I think a lot of it too, I think with social media now has a lot to answer for of all these Instagram moments, because I think I sort of always thought that the way that meditation and mindfulness had to look into my life was like this perfectly serene lotus position and, the yoga poses that were effortless and like not, it wasn't that way for me. So I think I was like, well, I'm just doing it wrong, or I'm obviously not connecting with it. So maybe it's not my thing. And it's like now that I'm really doing it and using it because I need it, it's like it doesn't actually, it's not like that. It's like, everyday moments, and sometimes they're funny and sometimes they're silly. Like I really connected with one of your posts. You were saying about what meditation looks like, and with your dog's crawling on your lap, and I love that because it's life happening while you're doing that. It's not that you put yourself in a bubble to have that moment and then come back to life. It has to be part of it for it to really work. And I think that's the part that you don't see in these Instagram moments and, on these serenity commercials and all of that.
Oh, God, this is why I love Danielle. This is why I love you so much. It is the truth. You speak the truth. And, you just made me think of something. Like marketing is really good. Instagram is really good. Like, of course, we want to be serene and we want to go on these trips and we get that experience, right? But then what happens? What happens when we come back and our dogs are crapping in the corner because they're old? And, like we get a call from our ex and we're like, damn it, why did you have to call me? Like, whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not, gosh, you're blowing my mind with opportunities right now.
and I think that's it. It's this mindfulness and meditation is actually such a beautiful thing because it's a gift that we can give ourselves to spend time with ourselves in and amongst the madness of life. And I feel like life is just getting busier and crazier. And I've started doing a mindfulness course because I wanted to really understand it more. And one of the first things I learned is they were saying that the Harvard psychology department did this study, and they found that we spend we spend half of our waking hours thinking about something other than what we're doing, and that makes us feel unhappy. So and I thought that's the epitome of modern living, and scrolling, and having your emails on your phone alongside your social media, and this is daily life. And if we know that doesn't make us happy, and what they found is the solution to that then is being able to be focused on the moment. And so to me, that's where meditation and mindfulness just completely comes into its own. That's why it's just so relevant now, and also why it's so important that it is like done in an everyday way, because we need it every day. We need it every moment. This is not something that, you can take a weekend and climb to the highest mountain and sit and meditate. If we all could, that would be fantastic, but that's not what life looks like and feels like for most of us.
If there's nothing sexy about brushing your teeth, so there's really nothing sexy about meditation in a sense.
Totally. And what's so cool about that is that like this whole idea of moving mindfulness and moving meditation, that brushing your teeth can actually become a moment of meditation. And I have this amazing book that I was introduced to like 20 years ago. And it's one of those things that really didn't resonate until just a few years ago, even though I've been reading it and picking up. And it's this lovely Vietnamese monk, and I can never say his name right. I think it's Thich Nhat Hanh.
Mm-hmm.
And he talked, that's where he started talking about the idea of like moving mindfulness, and things like if you're in a car and you're at the stoplight, every stoplight can be a moment of mindfulness, and brushing your teeth and eating a meal, and just taking a walk. And that was sort of that deep-seated idea when I was really at my kind of worst, in a sense, needing this, that sort of came up. And that's where I started doing it through something I loved. And like when I went through the divorce and all that stuff was going with life, I started having a lot of anxiety, and I didn't know what to do about it. I'd never had it before, so it actually took me a long time to even identify that's what those feelings were, was anxiety. And because I always loved to make, I picked up embroidery, and I picked it up with the intention of just stitching. And it was purely because for me, embroidery was something I sort of associated with home. My mom used to do it, so there was a real warm, comfortable feeling to it. But also I didn't want it. I was going through, I just finished, I think, art school at the time. So I didn't want it to have to be anything, because, when you have to make something, it's got to be good. It's got to have a good design. It needs to be perfect, all of that stuff. It's like, no, I just want to connect with what I'm doing. So I started embroidering, and it was just making lines, and it was connecting to the feel of the fabric, having, how the needle sounded when it was going through the fabric, being able to, this repetitive motion of up and down, up and down. And it took me completely out of my head and into this particular moment. And I just remember feeling like I could breathe, like I just paused and I could breathe. And I was just reconnecting with something inside of me that was like almost primitive, but it was like, it was me. I had this moment where I kind of went, oh, hello, there you are. And that was sort of the beginning of this realization that meditation can be something you can do and have through doing as well.
Tell us more like about your course and like what you're offering.
Yeah. So what I do really want to do is a course on how you can use mindfulness, how you can learn it in a sense through doing a hobby that you love. Mm-hmm. I love embroidery, but when I talk to a lot of people, they say, actually embroidery is not my thing. I'd rather draw, or I'm a gardener, or what. Mm-hmm. And so to me, that doesn't matter, because it's whatever you love. And that's the first thing that I think is so important, is experience it through something you love. Because one, you'll actually practice it. And two, it gives you a really positive association with it. We have enough things in our life that's hard. So let's choose some things that flow and feel easy and beautiful. And so when you're practicing focus and, being in the moment and using your senses to connect to what you're doing, it's going to bring you to a place of joy, a place of ease, and it means you're going to practice and build that mindfulness muscle of being in the moment and using your senses to connect to the moment. And the more you do that, that muscle gets stronger. And then when you're on your way to work, or you're in the workplace, or you're having these other things, you're having conversations with partners, all these other things where you need that moment, those feelings, those tools, they will be there and they will be stronger because you've already been practicing them.
Do you find sometimes, like when I'm in a work meeting or whatnot, I'll end up like drawing, like scribbling, or I'll put like a crystal in my hand, like, like a smooth little rock, something, because it makes me actually pay attention more. Like when you're doing this, do you find yourself, I mean, obviously you did, because you said like I was able to like really like go, oh, Danielle, there you are. Like, where have you been? Like, yeah. I love this aspect of doing something with your hands and finding yourself through that.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. We sort of assume that listening and kind of absorbing information is all done the same way. And for some people, they do it through doodling or through moving. It's almost like it focuses your mind on something, so that also what's coming in, like the words, also then stick more. I don't have the science behind as opposed to why it works, but I do. I totally get that. And that's, I think, sort of, and I don't know if it's in a sense when you focus your mind on something, it sort of stills the chatter a little bit, and maybe makes it easier to take in what's being said, or just even sort of what you're feeling. So yeah, I totally can see that.
I want to talk about your resiliency, because you're one of the most resilient people that I know of, being able to like pick yourself back up, get through it, find a hobby that you love. What do you think allowed you to do that in your life? Like to say like, this is just a moment for me and it's not fun, sure, but I'm going to do what makes me happy. I'm going to do what I love to do. And I'm going to refine myself. Like, did that come from your childhood, do you think? Or like, how did you know how to do that?
I think the first thing I'll say is it didn't happen fast, because I think that's kind of one of the misnomers that I thought about for myself, because my mantra was just power through, and that didn't work because I was powering through on the surface. So maybe to the outside world, I looked like I was continuing to achieve and have success. And on the inside, I was just falling apart. So I think it's really important. One is to be really gentle with yourself, that these things do take time. And I didn't really know anybody else who had been through this. So I sort of felt like I was on this journey going blind, so discovering that really what I was experiencing was grief and all the stuff that went with it. It just took time. But I think the other part of it is just continuing to seek, because if you don't like where you're at, or you don't like how you feel, you can evolve past that. But it's so I think it's just continuing to seek what works for you. And part of that I learned over time is I think the biggest thing comes down to trust. It is learning to trust yourself, is that you actually do have the answers inside of yourself, and to trust that they are there. Sometimes you might need other people to help remind you that. That's why I think, we aren't meant to do these journeys alone. So I did counseling, and I joined different groups. I joined a Buddhist group for a while, and I was practicing Nichiren Buddhism and doing chanting. And I think it was just trying to find anything that would help to spark that again. And eventually it ended up being really the making, I think, that really brought that together. But I guess it's bits of all of that. But the biggest thing that I've sort of learned is to just be gentle with yourself, really. The journey can be difficult. So kindness to yourself is important.
It's so true. And I love that you tried everything. You were like, I'm not giving up. I'm going to find it. It might not happen right now. It's not happening right now, but I'm going to go. This is not how my life is going to be, And I think that's incredibly inspiring. I see sometimes on Instagram people where they say, I hate meditation. Like, I hate it. It's awful. And there's about 700 different problems that we could talk about with meditation right now, as to an excuse as why it's not working, or blaming it on some other outward experience of why we can't meditate. I guess what I really want to know for you, this would be like a cool research experience to ask everybody this question. Have you ever had a moment while meditating that you say, I really hate this and I never want to do it again?
A lot. I'll be honest. Well, from the perspective of, I guess what I mean by that is when I'm doing it in the way I think I should be doing it. It's that should. So like, I love sitting on a park bench in a park and watching the world go by. And I think I consider that meditation, because I sit quietly. I'm sitting with my eyes open, but I'm just witnessing and observing. And that to me is beautiful. But I didn't think of that as mindfulness. I thought that I would have to be sitting in the lotus position, which really makes my knees hurt. And I'd have, like, if I do it in the ways I think I'm supposed to, my back hurts, my knees hurt, my mind is everywhere. It's really uncomfortable. But when I learned that there are about, 45 different ways that you can meditate, and the thing is, it's about finding the way that works for you. And when it's not working, I'm having those not nice feelings, I'm thinking, am I doing what I need to be doing for myself right now? Is this the right way to meditate? And sometimes I find, like, when I'm just sitting on my sofa, I just need to give myself more time with it. My mind is all over the place. So I need to give myself the instead of 10 minutes, I need to give myself 20 minutes, because it's 10 minutes of just almost settling my mind down a little bit. And then it never stops. That's, I think you've said this is a misnomer to assume that the mind just goes blank, but it'll sort of settle into a rhythm, and it's not so frantic. And so I think some of it just takes a little bit of time with that. But I do think it's so important is to try lots of different ways. I know I think you know more about meditation than I do, but in terms of, like, there's different ways you can breathe, there's different mantras that you can say. Sometimes I do it in complete silence, and that's where I really struggle. And then other times I'll do it guided, and I think I don't want to hear anybody else's voice. I just want the quiet. So it's just knowing that you can just listen to yourself, what feels right for you in that moment, and that's an okay way to do it. Then it doesn't, there's not one perfect way.
As I sat and thought of this question, I was thinking, man, there's been so many times I've hated the emotions that come up, or the way that, like, the same kind of experience of not being comfortable. And I love that you just brought up the 10 minutes. Like, we do need that, like, almost like time to chill. It's transitional time to transition into meditation, something. And once you start practicing, and you get really good at it, I think, is there's a way to get good at it? I don't even know if that's possible, but, like, you know what I mean? Once you start practicing it and you get to be more familiar with it, maybe,
Yeah.
then you have this opportunity to really go, oh, okay, I'm just now getting into the deeper end.
Yeah, totally. And I think some of that is knowing then what works right for you, or what are the signals that your body tells you that you're settling in. Or I've been reading this book about self-compassion mindfulness, and it really made me aware of my own thoughts and how I'm thinking about meditation. And the times that it was hard were things where I'm going, come on, you should be getting this. You've been doing this for 10 minutes. What's your problem? So my experience of it not being great is that I'm actually not being very kind to myself. And when I just stop and breathe and think, I'm having a hard time today, my mind isn't focusing, that this is difficult, it just relaxes into it. And the idea that the breath, like a very or a very self-compassionate way, like to breathe, is as you breathe in, letting the breath caress you as it comes through you. And then as it exhales, just feeling your body relax. And I just read that the other day and was doing it. I thought, oh my gosh, I feel so loved just letting that. And that again, so I think the idea of it being this like horrible experience, so much comes down to our own mindset and how we approach it and what we say to ourselves when we're doing it. So it's that inner world, isn't it? Do you find that? Does that resonate for you?
I'm like, we can end here. That was perfect. Thank you. That was like amazing. It's so true, because we can open up our own perspective at any moment and any time and be the cause of our own reality. It's just a matter of what we're telling ourselves and in our language. I was reading this book. It's called The Body Keeps the Score. And it's all about like trauma and resetting your mind. But it literally was saying how the language part of our brain and the self-awareness part of our brain are like almost at total opposite ends of the brain. So in order to connect the two, then we have to practice this self-awareness and get that muscle bigger, so that our language starts to change and our self-awareness starts to change, and they kind of like start to circulate and move together, which I thought was incredibly amazing to put this. Like, I love how you're putting the science behind it.
That's so fascinating. And it sort of makes me think that the way our modern world is, we're not really teaching ourselves to do that. Like we're not training children from a young age necessarily to have all that. So I think this is why the mindfulness and the meditation is so important, but also I think why there's so much struggle with it. And that of like, we think we know ourselves, but do we really know kind of what the thoughts are that are behind this? Like I've been doing some coaching with amazing Amanda Gold, and she's fantastic, but we've been talking a lot about how the feelings that you have, there's a thought that comes first. And a lot of times the thought will be the tiniest of niggles, and the feeling will be like this explosive feeling. So we are very aware of those feelings that are happening, but that self-awareness around what is that thought that is there first, and where is that coming from? And from like the language side, if there are things that we've been saying to ourselves or we have heard in our childhood and stuff, and then it's just also interlinked. But even I think the self-awareness part of it is that takes a lot of time and energy to really delve into that, of what's actually going on there. So yeah, it's a massive piece of work and growth.
Yeah. Huge. Completely. I love it.
Oh.
And that's where I think sometimes it feels as if it's so overwhelming. Like I'll never get
Mhm.
this. I'll never understand it. And you and I have been practicing for what, maybe like, I know I've been practicing 10 years at this point, almost like 9 years, but it still feels like, whoa, there's so much I'm still learning. And
Yeah.
so somebody, like they may not start because they're thinking to themselves right now in this moment, well, she's been practicing 9 years. I'll never get it.
Mm.
She's having like these over, like, yeah, but that's not, I guess you're finding this podcast in a sense because it's time for you to start, if that's the case.
Oh, totally. And I think it's like an onion has layers, that just the outside of the onion is just as flavorful as the inside. They're just at different locations and different points in the journey. So I think, if you can breathe, you can meditate. And
Mm-hmm.
it's on the most simple, basic level of that, you can take something from that. But there's, as you go deeper with it, there's so much, like such a richer experience that can evolve from that, and the self-knowing. But it doesn't take anything away from those first moments of just being aware of feeling your breath going in and out. So that's what I think is so beautiful. And all of this mindfulness meditation is, it's so simple. You don't need anything to do it. You already breathe, you already are, and you can be aware of that. So you can practice it anywhere. You can do it at any point in your journey, in your life, but then you can go so much deeper with it. So you
Completely.
know, it's for everybody.
Oh, it's for every single body.
I-
That was my cheesy line there. I had to say it.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Totally.
Oh my gosh, it's such a joy to talk to you today. And
Oh,
where
likewise.
where could we possibly get in touch with you to, I don't know, if we want to speak with you, if we want to start a process with you, like whatever it might look like, we'd love to find you and connect with you. And how do we do that?
Sure. Probably the easiest way right now is just through Instagram. I'm on the handle Making Blue Sky. And so I've got some things in the works. So when there's courses and some products, mindfulness products that I'm putting together, they will all be advertised and there and stuff. So that's probably the best place to find out about all that as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Tyler. It's always a joy to speak to you about this.
Is there anything else that you wanted to say that we didn't cover?
Because I think if I start again, we'll go on for another half hour.
Okay, got it.
But thank you so much. It's always lovely talking to you.
Here are the takeaways with Danielle. Number 1, mindfulness is a gift we can give ourselves in and amongst the madness of life. 2, we spend half of our waking life thinking about something else rather than what we are doing. Being able to be focused on the moment will make us happier. 3, every moment can be a moment of mindfulness. 4, experience mindfulness through something you love, and it will make it easier to do it more often in the real world. This sets the stage for the tools to be there when you need them most. 5, finding yourself doesn't happen fast, and you don't need the mantra, quote unquote, power through. Being gentle with yourself and allowing in kindness can help you evolve past it. 6, trust the process. 7, remember there is always a thought before the feeling, and the thought can be tiny and the feeling can be huge. Awareness comes from what was the thought that caused this feeling. I hope that you all have a wonderful, wonderful week, and I hope to hear from you soon to help you uncover any roadblocks that you may be facing, to get you through any sort of angst and stress. I'm about it, and my life has been such a joy because of this awareness. The awareness has also given me the ability to really feel things that I didn't necessarily want to feel, but man, when I got through it, my whole life changed. This inner game is real, and it is a real power, and it is access to your most unique and amazing self as a human in this time. Have a great week, and we'll talk soon.